Kevin Cox commenced his 4-year appointment as Queensland Anti-Discrimination Commissioner in February 2011. Kevin holds a Master of Social Welfare, Administration and Planning from the University of Queensland, and prior to his appointment was a prominent advocate working in social justice and human rights for vulnerable people with disabilities. In 2003, Kevin was awarded the Centenary Medal for Distinguished Service to Disability Services in Queensland and the QUT Award, the Humanities and Human Services Outstanding Alumni Award. This award recognises the contribution for exceptional professional achievement and contribution to the community at local, state, national and international level. In 2005, Kevin was awarded the Australian Human Rights Medal and the Human Rights and Equal Opportunities Commission from the Human Rights Equal Opportunities Commission. Most recently, in 2010, Kevin was made a member of the Order of Australia for service to people with disabilities as an advocate for the promotion and protection of individual human rights and as a contributor to the reform and development of disability services. At local, state and national levels, Kevin made positive contributions to achieve legislative reform towards creating accessible built environments, facilities and public and private transport. He's provided leadership in influencing legislative and policy reform to protect the most vulnerable people with disability at a state and national level. As Queensland's Anti-Discrimination Commissioner, Kevin's aim is to work towards a fairer, more inclusive Queensland.
You're going to ask us to do some work and to do some thinking. My workshop is titled Moving from Captives of Care to Life, Liberty and Fraternity. I draw upon the notion of captives of care from a man called John Rorty, who in the early 70s dared to dream of more than being stuck, immobilised in manual wheelchairs and relying on staff at a nursing home to push him and other residents around. And he dared to dream for a better life. And like Oliver Twist, he asked for more. In fact, he started a revolution. Through the assistance of a nurse in that nursing home, he managed to get media coverage and to get civil libertarians behind him so that people in the nursing home, first of all, got motorised wheelchairs so they could have a little bit more liberty and then end up moving and living in the community. Of course, we know life, liberty and fraternity comes from the French and American civil revolutions. And as we've heard today, people captured who are captives of care experience any life, any liberty or any fraternity. And so the workshop I'm going to ask you guys to sit down and talk in is to think about how we can get large change scale as opposed to incremental change scale in deinstitutionalisation. Jeremy identified back in the early 90s that Cheltenham had about 200 people living in there. The federal government gave the state government $10 million under the Better City programs to deinstitutionalise Cheltenham. In 3 years, 6 people were moved out of Cheltenham Centre. And that's what I'm talking about, incremental change. In 3 years, we would have expected 200 people could have been easily deinstitutionalised. Under the program that Jody and Sufi identified, that's happening, and Jody's report identified at least 270 people still captives of care. I think the plan is for 20 people to be moved out in the next 3 years, awaiting for the National Disability Insurance Scheme. So the challenge today I'm putting for us as a group, because you've been, there's a lot of knowledge in this room, and it would be unfortunately let that knowledge walk out of this room without you having a conversation. We have an opportunity, I think, for transition on a large scale because of the NDIS. And I'm not going to say the NDIS is a panacea for everything, but what it does provide for the first time is if you are born or acquire a catastrophic impairment, you will be entitled to some resources, which is very different from what we've known. And we certainly don't need it to be in single file with huge gaps between each person moving out. And we cannot be constrained by our limitations of our own experience of the system. And we need to think about what could we achieve if we were willing to take a different approach.